Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcast. Join us right now from the beautiful city of Indianapolis in Indiana. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new board book. It's called Creature from the Woods. Please welcome to the show, Megan Alms. Hey, Megan, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm delighted to have you on. You know, the first thing when I think of, I hear Creature from the Woods, and I am thinking what a great title for a horror novel or a horror movie. And I'm guessing a board book, probably not all that horrific.
No, we did talk about possibly changing the name because some people were like, I don't know, that sounds a little bit scary, but we ended up staying with it. I think the picture on the cover helps a little bit.
Well, you know, and people might debate this, but we've talked a lot here in the podcast about the fact that especially middle grade kids and above, they love to be scared in a fun way. They love spooky books, and we have a group of authors that call themselves the spooky middle grade authors who come on the podcast and help create some original content for us. I think that even little kids, there's a part of them that likes to have that scary, is it scary? I feel safe, but it's scary and I love it kind of experience.
Absolutely. It's been fun. I've been doing some school visits with elementary schoolers, talking to them about writing and being an author because they've been doing this writing project, and I like to show them some of the initial sketches from this book because there's one page where there are foxes and they're having a snack, and in the initial sketches, the foxes were eating a chicken. And I was like, I don't know if the little kids are going to like this, but the elementary schoolers love hearing that. They think it's so funny, and they're like, ooh, that's a little scary, but it's so interesting to them. And it's been so fun talking to them about stuff like that.
Yeah. Hey, talk a little bit. We'll get back into Creature from the Woods, but just talk a little bit about your school show presentation. I've been doing school shows for 35 years, and I shared with you that I found myself in a time warp in Indiana one time getting ready for a school show. But what is it that you are doing at your assemblies?
So I've been doing a couple of visits in the school district that I grew up in, which has been really fun because when I was in first grade, I did this author project. They'd bring in an author and an illustrator to talk to you about what it's like making a book and stuff. And we wrote our own. And so it's been really fun to go visit these schools and say, you know what? 20 years ago, I was doing the exact same project as you. It's been so fun to do that and show them, you know, it's possible. This is something that you can totally do when you grow up, or maybe even before you fully grow up. Mm-hmm. And so I've brought in kind of a list of the different places where I get story ideas, because sometimes I'll get a story idea from learning a new fun fact or from having a thought of something that I wish more people knew or something like that. And so I've told them all about that and talked about maybe how they could get ideas and learn some of their ideas for their books that they were going to write for this project. And that's always interesting too. I heard all kinds of story ideas about zombies or mermaids or all these fun creative ideas that they have. And that's been fun for my own inspiration too, hearing what they're really into right now. And then after that, I've talked to them a little bit about the publishing process, how, I started out with just having the words, and then I sent it to a publishing house, and then they found an illustrator, and getting all of these pieces together, the editing, the printing, and all of it, how it goes from just being an idea in your head to being a printed book that you can hold in your hand.
Yeah, that's so neat. Hey, you mentioned an interesting question. I'm really curious. What is the thing that you wish people knew?
Yeah, so when I use that as a story idea, sometimes it's been for more educational stuff, like stories about animals. I have one story that I've been working on. It's not published. It's in the early stages still, but it's about a hermit crab who's looking for a new shell, because I had seen all of these pictures of hermit crabs using really weird stuff as shells. Like they'd use a tennis ball or a sunscreen bottle, and I thought it was funny until I started learning more about it and learned this was all trash on beaches, and that it can be really harmful for hermit crabs to use all of these different things as shells. So I thought, you know what? I think that would be something that, especially kids, but really anybody, it could benefit people to learn about. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote this story, and it's kind of funny. It's funny watching the hermit crab use all of these different shells that aren't working, but then at the end you kind of get that learning moment of, oh, I could help. I could help characters like this little hermit crab live a healthier life. And so sometimes it's something educational like that, and then sometimes it's maybe more of an emotional, heartfelt lesson. Kind of like the book that we're talking about today, Creature from the Woods, where it's got this message of, you know what, I'll always love you no matter what. And that's something that I think a lot of kids need to hear today too. And so sometimes I'll even take that prompt and take it in lots of different directions of things that I think a lot of people should know in terms of education, but also a lot of things that a lot of people need to know just to feel valuable and to feel love.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, excuse me. What a great way to, inspire kids to write. Just kind of take the knowledge that you know. And a lot of times, we're inspiring kids to explore the STEM fields and maybe find an answer, create that thing that's going to make a difference in people's lives. But that role isn't for everybody. And maybe your son, your daughter's role is to write a story that's going to inspire the next generation of scientists to solve those problems. Absolutely. So, little hermit crabs don't have to rely on empty sunscreen bottles to find a new home. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about Creature from the Woods. What kind of creatures are we going to meet?
Well, it's a book full of all sorts of woodland animals. It's kind of the animals that you would find around Indiana, where I live. Different animals that you see if you're walking around here. And the opening line of the book is, "As I watch you prance around, I can't help but smile. You remind me of a creature from the woods, my child." And then it goes on to compare the child to all these various woodland creatures. So it's definitely like a sweet rhyming bedtime book. And I had this idea because I have a little sister, and she was born right before I went off to college. So we have the very interesting relationship, very unique situation. And I drafted this book while I was still in college, and I was taking a children's writing class. And at the time, she was still a toddler, and she just loved playing pretend. She always wanted to pretend to be different animals. So for a while, she was a little tiger cub. For a while, she wanted to be addressed as a little kitten. And there was probably a whole year of her life where she went around introducing herself, saying like, "Hi, my name is Little Bear." And so she always had this different animal that she wanted to be. And I thought, I would love to write some story that encourages that pretend play and the imagination that she was so into at that age, but also has that reminder that they're loved no matter what. And to have that message for her and also create that opportunity for other parents, siblings, grandparents, aunts and uncles to be able to share that message with their own kids in their own lives.
Yeah. What an interesting perspective you have. It's one that another author shared with us, a young man who became a brother just before he went off to college and has this beautiful relationship with his sister who is more than a dozen years younger than him and similar to what you're experiencing. But it gives you a very unique perspective on your sibling because you're not a parent, so you don't have that relationship, but you are very, very close. You have that deep love, but you're not 5 and looking at a newborn baby. You're not 7 looking at you're 18, 19, and like kind of sister, mother, but it's very unique. And I love that you're choosing that inspired you to write this book.
Absolutely, yeah. I especially love that I was able to write something for her because when there is that age gap, there's some level of feeling like, I can't be a sibling in the way that you traditionally would. I can't be there. I was off at college for a long time, and then she was not that much older when I went off and got married and wasn't able to just be there all the time. So you don't get to be there for maybe every single birthday party and get to see every milestone that they hit. And so it's a little hard, and it's like, I want to be a good sister, but also, I'm not turning 7 when she's turning 5, the way that a lot of siblings work out. And so I think being able to write about that was a good way to give her something as something unique that most siblings don't get to share.
Absolutely.
And give her this gift that makes being a sibling even more unique.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've been dreaming about being a writer for an awfully long time. Now that that's come to fruition, how does it feel? Is it, is it as satisfying as you had dreamt it would be?
It is. It's been so fun. And especially this is my first children's book. And so getting to read it to kids for the first time has been really special. Just because for so long it's been a concept, and I've gotten to write for other things and gotten feedback on it and stuff, and people have really liked a lot of other things, but it's so unique reading to kids and getting to see, like I brought some of my sample books to Easter with my family and got to see my cousin reading it to his daughter, this cousin that, I grew up with, and getting to see in real life people experiencing the book, especially young people who do not hold back their enthusiasm when they're really excited about something. I think that's the special part about it, is once someone is reading it, because, a book is only yours as the author for so long before you have to give it over, and it starts belonging to other people. And that's been the most rewarding part, is seeing kids and readers get to enjoy and be changed by this thing that you've written.
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the things I love to ask authors, especially debut authors, is have you taken the time to sit back and to understand that there are going to be hundreds, thousands of families around the world snuggled up together reading your book? It sounds like you've thought about that, at least on an intellectual level. Have you been able to kind of wrap your head around that emotionally, and how does that make you feel?
It's weird to think about, And I think especially with the internet now, it's going to be interesting starting to get reviews from people I don't know. Because yeah, so far as the book launches next week, and so far I've only been able to share it with the people, like people in my family, the kids at these school visits that I'm talking to directly, and it's still people who either I know or they live in the town I grew up in. And just, it is so weird thinking about, we're able to send books all over the place. And not only that, but we're also able to receive feedback from all these people all over the place. Mm-hmm. And being able to directly affect people's lives with books, people that you've never met. And it's weird to think about.
It really is. And I the reason I love asking that question is because I think it's really important for authors to sit back and to appreciate what it is that they've done, but also to take the time to realize the responsibility that an author has. Because we do affect, especially children's authors, we have a big effect on kids' lives. And we are sharing our values and our feelings with kids, and a lot of kids are going to embrace those values. And I think we have to be mindful of that. Absolutely.
I think there's a bit of an idea that writing for children is easier. It's easier than writing for adults. But, it might be a shorter book. That might be true in some small senses. There's also so much more responsibility, and there's kind of this idea that kids will just read and watch anything, which to some degree is true, which only gives us more responsibility when we're creating this media for them, or as the parent choosing what media we're going to show them. Because some people are they'll take whatever gets them distracted. But it's so much bigger when you realize how much their books and their shows and everything they're taking in forms who they're going to be as a person. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but I also think people don't realize just how opinionated kids can be. They're like, they'll read anything, but kids will let you know what they like and what they don't like. Mm-hmm. You will absolutely know if they don't like something.
Yeah.
And there's this quote by C.S. Lewis, and he said, a children's story can only be enjoyed by children is not a good children's story in the slightest. And I hold to that so much that it all comes down to telling a good story and telling a story that the whole family can enjoy, that brings the family together instead of separating. This is the kids' stuff. This is the adult stuff. Mm-hmm. Having something that you can all do as a family together.
Yeah.
And so, not only are you trying to tell a good story, but then in a children's book, you have to, be able to tell the story in a very short format. You have to be able to pick and choose words that kids will understand. And if it's a rhyming book, then you have to focus on rhyme and rhythm. And there are so many things that go into it that aren't just, you just write a cute little story. It's, 500 words long and then you're done.
Mm-hmm. No, and your book, which you shared earlier, is all about helping kids understand that they are loved and will always be loved. Well, I don't know about you, Megan, but I am constantly seeing gurus and psychologists and coaches online pitching their books that are essentially telling adults, hey, you are loved no matter what, unconditionally, you deserve to be loved. And basically they're taking 40, 50, 60, 70,000 words to tell that message to adults. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you have to tell that message to little kids with only 500 words. I think writing a kid's book is a lot harder than just kind of going on and bloviating through another big book. And just think how much healthier those folks who are reading those books as adults would be if they had read, had Creatures from the Woods read to them as a kid.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of books, it's, having the message of, that you are loved in it is so helpful, but it's also the act of reading it together. Mm-hmm. The time spent together shows that, you can tell it in a book, but the act of reading the book, you're showing it. Mm-hmm. You're not just saying, yeah, I do love you. I think that's what's going to have the most impact too. And the more that happens with this next generation of kids, I think that's going to help them a lot as they grow older too.
Absolutely. Hey, what's next from Megan? Do you have another book in the works right now?
Yeah, I have a couple of books that are in the works right now. There's nothing official yet, but definitely more animal books and definitely more whimsical books are coming.
Awesome. Tell, please, everybody where they can go to find out more about Creature from the Woods and also find out more about you.
Yeah, so my website is meganalms.com, meganalms.com, and that's kind of the hub for everything I do online, all of my books, and all of my other projects, and there's a whole page there on my website with all kinds of information about the book, all kinds of links, and then you can find Creature from the Woods just about anywhere that books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Walmart, Target, and if it's not in the local store, it's definitely on their website.
Yep, and you can always ask very politely the person behind the desk at your local independent bookstore, hey, do you have Creature from the Woods? No, could you get it, please? And I know they're going to say yes.
Absolutely. I encourage that too. I know a lot of small independent bookstores are very happy to get books like that.
Yeah. We've had a great time speaking to the author of the debut board book. It's called Creature from the Woods. Our guest has been Megan Alms. Megan, thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast and will join us for the next exciting episode. If you want to make sure you don't miss a second of the show, please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, wherever you get your podcasts. And also be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com and download your copy of the Reading With Your Kids online magazine. It's free. It's available at readingwithyourkids.com. Just click on our blog. Before we go, I want to make sure that I give a big thank you to my team: Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Madison Dairies, Soji Franklin, Monica Rivera Sosa, Ann O'Leary. I want to give a big thank you to my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me, and most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.